Hey there, boys and girls, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and again, I'm not exactly over the good mic. However, you can probably tell my voice is sounding a whole lot better than it used to. Hopefully I'll be back on my feet in no time. But, I've got 2 more guest appearances for you guys to enjoy. Tonight is going to be one of my very good friends, very long-time friends as well, WellHeyProductions. You guys have seen him on this channel before. You've seen him do some of the promotions for the Pyramid way back when, with some incredible voice acting, along with being paired with Vincent Venicava. And on Thursday, I've got one more very special guest that you guys probably have seen before. So, strap in and get ready for Reditum by WellHeyProductions and performed by WellHeyProductions in his deep, buttery voice.
It's been roughly 100 years, give or take a few, since I visited the town of my birth. Folks say when I was born, I brought hell with me, and I haven't stopped since. I haven't been on the run, per se. I look at it as restlessness. From what I've been told about my father, he was the exact same way. Couldn't sit still for more than a few months. Guess that makes me a chip off the old block, huh? Where are my manners? You may recognize my voice, but how much do you really know about me? Name's Murphy. Name I gave myself after I was born. I've been told that not too many can actually remember the day of their birth. For me, it's as clear as day. I remember darkness. Vast darkness. I remember hearing a scratching noise coming from beyond, a slow, chaotic scratching. I went in search of the source of the noise. The scratching got louder and louder, and suddenly, the blackness began to peel away to reveal a large group of people looking right at me, and the man responsible for the noise, of whom I can only assume, was my father. He continued scratching as the group of people became more focused and saturated with color. I first recognized what they were: a gathering of black, white, and gray figures, and soon they started to flood with vibrant color and infinite detail. As my father continued to scratch away, I looked down and could see my arms, my torso, and my legs all form into existence like ink bleeding over a wet canvas. It was magnificent to watch myself being born, and the group of people were glued to the edges of their seats. I could only guess they were seeing the exact same spectacle that I was seeing. As my form was being constituted into existence, I began to hear a low murmur of undecipherable whispers emanating from all around me. As my body became more and more substantial, the whispers grew louder, as if they were getting closer. After several more moments of scratching and etching, my father stood back and gazed at me. I looked into his eyes for the first time and, well, I've heard stories that when a son is born unto you, you look upon him with great pride and love, and the realization that you have become a father finally hits you in the heart, and you truly are at peace. My father looked upon me for the first time with horror and regret. His expression was shouting out, "Good Lord, what have I done?" He stumbled and something fell from his hand, something black and stick-like. I looked back into my father's eyes and then to the crowd who was watching me intently. I tried to walk to embrace my father for the first time, but there was a barrier blocking me like frosted glass. I could not get to him. I looked about my body and noticed I was now fully clothed, not naked as I had been moments before while my father was still scratching at the barrier with his stick. It appeared as though I was wearing the exact same outfit my father had on, a loose shirt and jacket and pants. I searched myself for something, anything that would help me get to my father, but all I could find was a black stick of my own, resting there in my jacket pocket. Could it be? Would it even... I reached out, black stick in hand, and began to scratch at the frosted surface with my stick, and to my amazement, not only was it drawing a solid black inky line on the surface, but was cutting through it like a hot knife through butter. I proceeded to carve my way through. As I was doing so, the flurry of whispered voices became more audible. Some were high, some were low. Some were male, some were female, and some were downright terrifying. I spun around to see where these voices were coming from. I dropped my stick. Thousands of creatures, all deformed and primitive, were gathering around me, swelling about me as paint does in thinner, all stopping within a few feet of me. They were waiting. They wanted to be born as well. Do it, they said. Release us all. Although they were all different shapes and sizes, deformed or sculpted, we all shared the same quality. Our skin was black. Pick it up, boy, they began to chant. Free us all. Free us all? What the hell were they talking about? I continued to carve my way to my father. At last, my task was complete, and I pushed on the door I now created. As soon as the first ray of light slipped through as I opened the passage, the creatures behind me stampeded through and burst the door open. The crowd on the other side panicked and fled for their lives as the creatures created absolute chaos in the room we were now in. Some creatures ran right for the doors to escape. Some stayed back to wreak havoc in this bright chamber we were now in. I simply stood there, a newborn, confused by my new surroundings, and tried to gain my bearings on what exactly was going on. I looked back and saw the door still wide open and vomiting more and more creatures that hid in the depths of the shadows. The creatures that first came forth with me were small in most aspects. They resembled innocent little doodles in cartoons, like those you would see in the newspaper. But now, those characters had long since fled, making way for more grotesque and monstrous creatures. Creatures with multiple heads and deformed bodies that made any less of a man retch upon first sight. As I looked back at the door, I saw my father simply standing there, wide-eyed and aghast to what was happening. I called out to him and began to run back. As he turned to face me, he was seized by some of the more appalling beasts that came forth. I made chase, but it was too late. I barely touched the tips of his fingers before he was forced through the door and drowned in the deep nothingness from whence I came. The door sealed itself so violently that the walls began to tremble and quake. Bits of plaster and wood fell from the ceiling and walls. The remaining audience fled the room as I stayed behind, pawing at the wall that separated me from my father. The cracks and groans became louder and louder, and I knew there was no way to bring him back. I ran from that place and never looked back. I was able to retain that black stick that I brought with me when I was born, and it has proved itself quite useful over the years. If I need a quick exit or a weapon to defend myself, I simply draw one, and upon completion, I pluck it off the wall or simply walk through it. I have grown quite accustomed to life in this realm, but still find mischievous pleasure in using my powers to confuse and perplex my enemies or just anyone who gets in my way. On occasion, I will see one of my brothers or sisters that escaped with me that day. They tend to hide in the shadows, not knowing how to fully grasp this world yet. But, like all of my father's creations, we have all the time in the world. Today, nearly a century later, I finally returned to that small town. Not much is left. I heard tales that after my birthday, some organizations silenced the entire populace, attempted to cover all traces of it ever happening, and because of the horror that was left behind, because of us that escaped, most moved elsewhere. The building where I was born no longer stands, just a parking lot now, overgrown and run down, just like everything else around here. The roads are cracked and worn away. The buildings that still stand are peppered with vines, and no window stands unshattered. Homes and vehicles were abandoned, stores left open, tattooed with graffiti, and their contents either gone, decayed, or spoiled. Amongst all the desolation, two things still stand: a church and a graveyard. I could never find much comfort in a chapel, so I strolled on over to the latter. Most of the headstones were covered in moss, worn down and illegible. Many were shattered and overturned. But near the back corner of the small plot of moldy and musty land, there stood a lone marker. It was separated from the rest of the stones here, I can only assume, out of fear after I read the name. I know I will find no body buried underneath, for I know exactly where my father's body lies. So I sit upon the earth, pay my respects, and heed the inscription. Born January 15th, 1887. Died August 4th, 1915. Jack of all trades, ace of one. May your canvas be ever blank to create your next masterpiece. Rest in peace, Jacob Emery.